for a certain number of months before the internment camps in 10 locations on America's wasteland were built. These 120,010 camps, guarded by U.S. military sentries, not only on the ground but in the towers. And the facilities that were available to the inmates were something that truly is shameful. Women were put in a situation where they had to use their, what is called, the military called latrine, commodes lined up without partition. Not only was their constitutional rights removed, they suffered the indignity and harassment by the army. But what to do? The inmates decided you can't fight it. Accept it and persevere, which is what they did. Meanwhile, when the war broke out on the west coast of America, General DeWitt decided that those Japanese Americans already in the military should be discharged. They went home, helped their families pack, and went to camp with them. Then in 1943, in Hawaii, on the other hand, there was 1,432 Japanese Americans already in the territorial guard when the war broke out. And how did General Emmons decide to solve that problem? Because you see, the Japanese Americans remained in Hawaii and there was a threat of land invasion. They was concerned that these Japanese Americans would drop their arms and go to the other side, or carry their arms and go to the other side and fight. Ridiculous. But more of a reality was that the Japanese soldiers would disguise themselves as Japanese Americans, then you would have serious problems. So what General Emmons did, and here again, with the approval of General Marshall, no doubt, decided to take them all out of Hawaii, 1,432, place them in a camp in Camp McCoy, Wisconsin for training, and subsequently deployed them to Italy. And in deploying them to Italy, there is a quote of General Marshall who said, "I offered these Japanese Americans to General Eisenhower's staff, but they declined. I offered them to General Mark Clark, the 5th Army Commanding General, and he said, if they are willing to fight, I will accept them." And then you see, what I'm trying to show is the role that General Marshall played in the background. Because he wanted the Japanese issue resolved. Those on the mainland who were discharged and went to camp, when the call came for volunteers for the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, 1,500 of them, many of them who were discharged, decided to volunteer. One of our colleagues, who recently passed away, said, in response to a question from a student, "Mr. Ichiuji," the student said, "why is it that you volunteered for the government, they treated you so mean? Good question. Joe said, I was mad. I was mad because they kicked me out of the army for no reason other than the color of my face. I went home, I helped my family back. I went to camp with them, and when the call came for volunteers for the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, I was the first in line to volunteer. Why? Why is because I wanted to prove to the government my loyalty. And I wanted also to hasten the day when my family can leave this place. And you see, 4,000 volunteered for the 442nd Regimental Combat Team. And the reason they volunteered was to prove their loyalty. The only ethnic group in America who went into combat in World War II for that purpose. The 442nd trained in Camp Shelby, Mississippi, and subsequently was sent to Italy, where they joined up with the 100th Battalion. The 100th Battalion was already in the field for 9 months. They suffered such heavy casualties that they had to draw replacements. And the replacements came from the 1st Battalion of the 442nd that was training in Camp Shelby, Mississippi. So the 442nd went to Italy, full strength, but minus the 1st Battalion, and the 100 then, in effect, became the 1st Battalion of the 442nd. And together, they liberated one Italian town after the other until September of 1944, when General Eisenhower requested the 442nd to be assigned to France to help out in the southern invasion of France, while Operation Overlord was coming from the north, you see. So the scene of the battle was the Vosges Mountain in northeastern France. And the Germans selected the Vosges Mountains as their last fortress, as a to protect the invasion into the German Rhineland. And they listened to the historians.